Valheim released into Steam Early Access on February 2nd, 2021. At the time, the small development team of just 4 full-time and 1 part-time employees likely had modest expectations on what to expect for their future of their game. Using the Wayback Machine, I was able to check the Steam page on launch day to see what it said for how long the game will be in early access. It said that developers expected the game to be in early access for at least 1 year. This is typical with early access games, and honestly, most take much longer. In fact, I will say at the time that Valheim launched, I ended up not playing it until a couple weeks after launch because just prior to that, I had been burned by a couple of other early access survival games, which left a bad taste in my mouth. It wasn't until I saw that the game actually had a lot of depth to it that I decided to jump in myself. So looking at the Steam chart for this game, you'll notice that the game launched with around 7 or 8,000 players. Again, probably meeting the expectations of the developers. But something interesting happened. Over the next couple of weeks, the player base just kept growing and growing and growing. And it wasn't until about 3 weeks later, on February 21st, that the game hit its all-time peak concurrent players of around 500,000. At that time, that put the game in the top 10 all-time peak concurrent players on Steam. And I'm not surprised by this. After having put so many hours into the game, and actually from playing it at launch, the game launched with more content than most other early access survival games, or actually more than most survival games end up having when they're finished. The game had 5 fully completed biomes, each with their own bosses, each with their own items, enemies, and stuff like that. The systems within the game were very well fleshed out. They all worked together. The food system, the crafting system, the building system, they were all very well done, and they all felt like they worked well together. So it's not surprising that the game ended up having more success than probably most people expected. However, I don't think anyone would have ever predicted that the game would have had as much success as it did. In fact, maintaining its player base well beyond the first month of the game, which is very, very rare for an early access survival game. But what happens when you have this much success is you can also have some pain points and some failures. And what ended up happening was, because there were so many people playing the game, many technical issues and bugs were found that probably wouldn't have happened if there were only 10, maybe 20,000 people playing the game. So what ended up happening at this time was developers had to make a decision, and they decided that they were going to focus on fixing the bugs and optimizing the game before moving on to making more content. But of course, what happens with that is that because there's not new content, the player base will slowly start to fall off, and development for the game will take much longer. So as we sit here about almost 4 years after release, I wanted to talk about where the game is going in the future and whether or not I think the game will be finished in 2025. So first up, taking a look at their Steam page today, it hasn't been updated recently, but it has been updated since obviously it launched. And it says that the next update will be the Ashlands update. That has already occurred earlier this year, and that they have one more biome to complete the Deep North. And then after that, they're going to add some more. They want to add some other stuff in between, but they're saying that as of, I guess this was updated in January 2023, that they expected about 2 more years of development. That would put the game's full release in January 2025. Now, based off what I know today, there's no way that's occurring because there seems to be a lot more that they want to add aside from just adding the Deep North. And with the other updates coming, I guess the big updates were coming about a year apart. It seemed like something like that, maybe a little bit longer. And then the minor updates in between. There seems like there's a lot more they want to add. So what more is likely to be added? And this is going to be based off of just what I know and what I've heard from the developers over the course of the development time. So obviously the Deep North is going to be the final biome. That's what they've said. That's going to be the big biome. That'll probably come with the 1.0 launch. So I would expect that to probably be the last thing they add. They have also talked about adding, and the Deep North will come probably with the conclusion of the game, being able to beat it. It'll be interesting to see what happens like after you finish beat the final boss. Like, does the game end, or can you just continue to play as long as you want? I would imagine they'll let you just continue to play. But aside from that, they've also mentioned at some point overhauling the ocean biome. So the ocean's been in the game since launch. So the game launched with 5 biomes plus the ocean. The ocean really doesn't have much in it, and the ocean takes up a large part of the world in Valheim. You'll have to traverse across the ocean to get to different islands, different continents, and sometimes to find the different biomes you need if you're not lucky with your spawns and can't just quickly get across to small rivers and stuff like that. But the ocean is relatively safe. As long as you sail during the day and it's sunny out, you're really not going to have to worry about much. There's currently only one aggressive enemy in the, or one aggressive creature in the oceans, and there's one that's, I guess it's passive because it really doesn't do anything, although it can sink your ship if you run into it. But other than that, and then fishing, there's really not much to do out in the ocean. So they could certainly do a lot with the ocean. I think they could add some more fishing to it. They could certainly add some more creatures to it, whether they be passive or aggressive. Maybe they'll even add an ocean boss at some point that could be optional or maybe incorporated into the game. That would definitely make for a completely different boss experience. Up to this point, most of the bosses have pretty unique fights and they stand out from one another, but having one where you're actually having to fight it while out on a ship would be very interesting. So the ocean biome, while not 100% confirmed, is something they talked about in the past, and it's something that may happen before the Deep North update. Now, other things they've added since the launch of the game were a couple of NPCs. The game, of course, launched with Haldor, who is the trader that you can get items from in the Black Forest, but they also added Hildur, who is an NPC that's in the Meadows, although having started a new game and having not played it since she was added, I have not found her yet. I was told that she's in the Meadows, but not in the Meadows that are generally where you spawn. So she's been added to the Meadows, and they've also just recently had the Bog Witch, which is going to be an NPC in the swamps. So having an NPC in the first 3 biomes and them mentioning that they might want to add some more POIs or events in like that are just like not major events leads me to believe that they have plans for possibly adding NPCs to all or most of the biomes. So currently there's no NPC in the mountains, there's no NPC in the plains, Mistlands, Ashlands, and of course the Deep North's not released yet. So that's a possibility of having up to 5 more NPCs added in the world. And each of those could be unique, having different quests or maybe providing different features. They also might want to add other POIs outside of the NPCs, possibly. I'm just speculating here because they're not very clear on this. On the Steam page, it says we would also plan to add more unique locations and events for you to find in the world of Valheim. That might be just referring to the NPCs that were added, but it could also be referring to maybe they put some points of interest in. Maybe in the swamp, there's like a swamp lair or something, or maybe in the mountains, there's a giant castle you have to explore. So those could be things that they could add that would be minor updates before the Deep North update. Going forward, there's also a very good chance that they're going to make further refinements or maybe adjustments to the crafting and cooking systems and perhaps even combat. The most recent update, adding the Bog Witch, changed the way that the cooking system works. They added a new crafting, at least one new crafting station, because I just started a new save. And it looks like they've added new recipes. They added things called Feast. So they've kind of overhauled that. They've also refined and added other crafting stations over time with each update. And it just looks like they're trying to fine tune each of the systems. And like I said earlier, even though they felt like they worked together very well when the game launched, it looks like they're just trying to almost perfect it and have them work. They just have them intertwine where they're all meaningful and work well together. So I think there's a lot more that they can do. And on paper, it just seems like the only thing left to do is the Deep North and maybe do something in the ocean. But it seems like they're going to be doing a lot more. I feel like they're going to add at least a couple of more NPCs, if not one to each of the biomes, at least a couple more. I expect them maybe to add a couple of POIs, maybe one to each biome. Maybe they just scatter them around and have a few in each biome. That would definitely be something interesting to see. And maybe those things happen after the 1.0 update, but the way these developers have worked up to this point and with the success of the game, I don't think it's like they're looking for millions more sales. They've already made more money than they probably could ever need to finance the game and to finance future projects, to be honest. So I think it seems like they'll probably take their time in adding these things. And I kind of feel like the Deep North update will probably be the 1.0 update. And before that, they're going to add these other NPCs. So with that said, do I think the game is going to be finished in 2025? Honestly, based on the current cadence of updates, I would say it's probably not likely to be finished in 2025, maybe the very end of it. Now, with that said, maybe they have other NPCs already added, and they're just going to drop them piecemeal. If they dropped a couple other NPCs and maybe POIs and some changes to the crafting system, maybe every couple of months in 2025, then perhaps the game could fully release at the end of 2025. But I would say as of right now, if I was to guess, I would expect maybe the game will be finished in either very late 2025 or the first quarter or half of 2026. In any case, I'm going to be checking out all the new updates as they come, and I just started a fresh new save where I'm playing through and enjoying the changes to the game because the game has changed a lot since the last time I played it when the Mistlands dropped. So anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think Valheim will be updated? Do you think Valheim will be finished in 2025, or will it take a little bit longer? And what is your favorite thing that has changed since the game released? If you found this video enjoyable, make sure to hit the like button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.